let's go through some of your nutrition questions. So firstly, apologies if you can hear Zuko in the background. I've just given him a new chew toy and he doesn't want to leave my side as he has it, so that's probably what you can hear him doing in the background. I put up a box on my Instagram over a week ago now and asked for some nutrition questions, no matter how small, even if they're not totally relevant to powerlifting, because I wanted to put some more content out around the nutrition side, because in all of my training videos, I obviously talk through decision making, the use of variations, just like powerlifting programming type stuff, and I explain obviously what I'm doing in my own training, but I realize I don't talk too much on the nutrition side, and as I am also a nutrition coach as well as a powerlifting coach, I thought it was probably something worth chatting through, because I do think a lot of people, I think in my mind the nutrition behind training is somewhat simple, but I think that's just because obviously it's something I've done for so long and known for so long, but for a lot of people that's probably the thing that they're struggling with the most. So let's talk through the questions. So first question I had was more of a generic question, which is tips on breaking snacking habits. Now, I relate to this a lot. I essentially, growing up, my mum and I had to have the rule of no snacks in the house, because if they weren't available, we wouldn't eat them. Like, I'm not someone that's going to walk to the shop to get snacks because I'm too lazy to do that. So we essentially had this rule of no snacks in the house, which is great in some ways because it means that even if I fancy something, I can't have it because it's not readily available. And generally, if it's not in the house, I don't think about it as much. And I do still kind of live by that rule now. Like, we don't really have a lot of snacks in the house unless there's snacks that I know I can easily fit into my macros and manipulate into my food, which kind of leads on to the actual answer to this question. So if you're someone that snacks a lot, and let's say you have a lot of cravings, the best thing you can do is find ways to incorporate that food into your diet. Because if you try and restrict and avoid and have a rule of no, I'm not eating any, let's say chocolate, for example, I'm having no chocolate in my diet, you're going to crave it more. And then when you do eventually allow yourself to have it, you're more likely to binge and overeat on it. So avoiding restriction is key. And obviously, depending on what you're doing with your diet, like if you are in quite a big deficit, then fair enough, you're probably not going to have the calories to fit in enough chocolate to really satisfy that craving. But it's important to still try and have a little bit. Or if you have a day where your coach or yourself allows yourself to have a little bit more calories, then maybe that day is the day you fit that in. So I think one thing I would also say is if you are working with a nutrition coach and you find yourself kind of having a lot of cravings, communicate that with your coach, and there's a good chance that if you are in quite a big deficit, they'll give you a little bit of a refeed to allow you to satisfy that urge a little bit anyway. But yeah, so my tips for breaking snacking habits are try and avoid having too many snacks readily available anyway. But also, if you are a snacker and you know that you're someone that craves things, don't fully restrict. So always have things on hand. You don't have to eat set amount of meals every day. Like, you can fit snacks into your diet. Don't be afraid to track your snacks. So one thing that I do with my nutrition, which I've spoken about briefly before in other videos, is I always plan my day ahead. And I'm not a massive snacker, to be fair. Like, when I want to snack, it's generally out of boredom. But what I will always do is, if I know there's a day I'm going to be sat at my desk for a lot longer than normal, and I know I'm going to be a bit more bored and wanting to eat more, I will incorporate snacks into my macros for the day. And then I will just, as the day goes on, as I'm thinking, oh, I really want something to eat, I'll go and grab what I've already tracked and have that within my food for the day. So that's my advice with snacking habits, because snacking is not inherently bad. It's just finding ways to make it fit within your goals. Second question was, what is my favorite tracking app and why? So I always use MyFitnessPal. I always have used MyFitnessPal. It's just simple, easy. I remember a friend once did try and get me to use a different app. I can't remember what it was called, but I just didn't really see the point. I think MyFitnessPal is the simplest one to use. I think in America they might have lost the barcode scanning tool, but in the UK we can still use that on the free version. I don't pay for MyFitnessPal. To be honest, if I did have to pay for MyFitnessPal just to have the barcode, I probably would, because I know I use it every single day and it's just super easy. But the thing I love about MyFitnessPal is you can just use this, like, I eat the same foods every day basically, like it's just small variations of the same meals, so I can just copy it from the day before and it's just super simple. It takes me less than 2 minutes to track my food every single day, and it's just really easy and I like it. And once you learn to navigate your way around the app, you can also do these things really quickly. You can upload your own recipes, you can find them online and just copy them straight over, or I always insert my own recipes, so I tend to make my recipes myself, and then I know that I've already got everything, and if I need to manipulate that recipe a little bit, it's super easy to go in to do that. I have foods and stuff logged. Let's say I've got a ready meal from Tesco's or like a pizza from Tesco's that I want to track, and the macros when I've scanned it with the barcode don't match what the label on the packet says. I'll just go in, I'll create a food, or I can't remember what it's called, it's either create a meal or create a food, and it's just super easy to do and put in yourself, and yeah, I think MyFitnessPal is the most convenient. With MyFitnessPal as well, what I will say is never let MyFitnessPal set your goals for you, because I know historically, especially when it comes to calorie deficits, MyFitnessPal will tell you to eat way less than what you should be. I think with MyFitnessPal, my goals are always just set to 0, and then my coach, or when I was coaching myself, obviously I'd have my own set macros that I would essentially just remember or make a note of in my notepad on my phone. So always set your goals to 0 on MyFitnessPal, unless you pay for the actual full version when you can then insert your goals more accurately yourself. But yeah, that's the other thing. I would not let MyFitnessPal coach you. I literally just use it to log my food, and it's super simple and easy to use. So another question I got in was, what is the best nutrition strategy for a powerlifter that wants to be strong but also lean? So with powerlifting, the goal is to be as strong as possible. And I think we need to almost forget about the body image side, which is obviously much easier said than done. And most of us probably got into powerlifting through getting into the gym to look a certain way. So it's a very difficult thing to kind of navigate there. But the stronger you are, the more muscle mass you have. Like, they equate, like, they are the same thing. They work together. So if you train hard and you're eating in a decent way and you're not in a huge surplus, you're naturally going to be recomping anyway and gradually getting leaner. I think myself as an 84 is a really good example of this. The amount of times I've toyed with the idea of doing a cut down to 76 just so I can look leaner. But at the same time, I want to be as strong as possible. I want to be as big as possible. And actually, over the last 2-3 years of really dedicating myself 100% to my nutrition and my training and pushing my body hard, my body has recomped so much. I'm getting leaner as the years go on. So that's one thing I think is important to say. But with nutrition strategy, so if you want to cut some body fat off, but you want to maintain your strength, which is kind of what I'm interpreting from this question, being in a calorie deficit is obviously important to help you get some of that fat off. Now, you can recomp at more of a maintenance level, but let's just say you're trying to lose some body fat. So what you want to do is you want to be in a very small surplus. Now, obviously, the more body fat you have, the more aggressive you can be with your diet. But generally speaking, you really only want to be losing around 1/4 kilo, 1/2 pound a week of fat in order to maintain as much muscle mass as possible. So the number one thing here is slow and steady, and also making it sustainable comes within that too. So the slower and the more time you give yourself, the easier it's going to be, because it will also allow you to have slight diet breaks, more time in maintenance phases, rather than just a constant deficit, depending on how much you want to lose and how long you want to lose for. So I think the main key here is, if you are trying to cut fat and you do want to lose a little bit of general weight, but obviously you want to preserve muscle mass to stay as strong as possible, it is take it slowly. And also, something I would also recommend is weighing yourself daily so that you can look at averages rather than having a set day each week that you weigh yourself. Just because fluctuations happen, hormonal fluctuations, you can maybe eat a little bit more salt one day, a little bit of extra water retention. If you've trained a little bit harder, your muscles are a bit sore, you're going to be retaining a little bit more. It's really important to look at averages over time rather than just weighing yourself once every week or so, I think anyway, and I think it's a really good data point to have. I do also think weighing yourself more frequently really allows you to take the emotions out of what the scales say, which I know is something a lot of people do struggle with. It's something I've massively struggled with in the past, and I would say I'm like 99% over it now, and part of helping me with that is weighing myself every single day, because I don't care anymore what the scale says, because I know it's just data that in the long run is going to help me get to my goal. And also, it's just really good to have those averages so you can see throughout the week kind of how things are trending. Like for myself, for example, I know that like midweek I tend to have a little bit of a weight fluctuation up, and then at the weekend it kind of settles back down again, just as my routine kind of settles and I'm getting a little bit more sleep. So those are really important things. And yeah, essentially, if you want to be strong but you also want to be lean, it's don't go into too severe of a calorie deficit, give yourself time. But also, honestly, if you're kind of sitting where you should be within your weight class, as in like you're kind of at the top of your weight class, you don't really need to lose any weight to fit into a weight class or anything like that, and you just want to be leaner at your current weight, and you're already kind of a fairly, I don't want to give body fat percentages because I think it varies so much from person to person and obviously from men to women, but let's just say you're not super excessive in body fat, like you're already in like a fairly, not lean state, but lean enough state, and it's just a case of trying to get a little bit leaner. I would also just say train really hard, eat around maintenance, make sure you're fueling your sessions properly, like split your food up evenly throughout the day, but obviously then prioritizing carbs pre-workout, carbs and protein post-workout, but try and get like a little bit of protein spread throughout the day at each meal, and just, yeah, kind of refine your nutrition approach, if that makes sense, without having to go into much of a deficit. You can recomp at maintenance. Like, it is definitely doable. It's something that I've done. And also, if you're someone that's trying to be lean but you don't necessarily have tons of muscle mass at the moment, don't be afraid to go into a little bit of a surplus to help you really build that muscle mass. Again, it doesn't have to be dramatic. You can't gain tons of muscle at a time, so you don't need to be in a massive surplus and then gain loads of excess body fat. Everything you do when it comes to your nutrition and your weight class should be done slowly and carefully and thought through. Another question I've had is, and I really like this one, if you've never cut for a competition before and you don't know how it's going to affect your strength, is it a good idea to do a test before the comp to see how you react? Also, I'm so sorry that Zuko is being so noisy with his chew. So, should you do a trial cut is essentially what this question is. So, it honestly depends. It completely depends. If you're doing it on your own without the guidance of a coach, might be worth it. I'm also going to lead into the next question kind of as I answer this. So if you've got loads of time, then there's no harm in doing a trial cut. But I would say cutting isn't particularly fun. Like, it doesn't have to be hell, it doesn't have to be torture by any means at all. But what I personally find gets me through my cuts is knowing that comp is at the weekend. Or like, I'm 2-3 days out from comp, just suck it up for a few days. And I think telling yourself you're going to do a trial cut, it can be quite hard to really commit to that, which makes me think it's probably not always worth it. It depends how above you are. If you have loads of time, then sure, do a trial cut, maybe do it on the week 4 of your block so you can just have a little look and see how you perform. Obviously try and do it to comp standards as well, so maybe you just only give yourself a couple of hours after weighing yourself in the morning of the last day of that cut before you then go and train. Training is obviously a little bit more intense or more volume than a comp day, so that is something worth bearing in mind as well. Like, you're not going to be going in and just hitting like 3 lifts on each movement on your like test day. You're probably going to be going in and potentially doing like a full SBD day, for example. But yeah, you can do a trial cut, but I don't think it's necessary, because this leads into my next question, which was what to do if you wake up above comp weight on the morning of your meet. So the reason I don't think a trial cut is totally necessary is because if it doesn't work as effectively as it should, there should always be contingencies in place to make it so that you can still make weight. So for myself, I will always wake up at least 2 hours before I have to leave my hotel room, so that I have plenty of time if I wake up heavy to get that weight off, manipulate my body weight a little bit more, and still have time to kind of shower, get myself smelling less gross from sweating the weight off, and pack all my stuff away without having to stress, because I don't want to be stressing on comp morning. So I think with the trial cut, if you are someone that gets quite stressed around the concept of making weight, around doing a cut, and you're just really nervous about the whole process in itself, then it might be worth doing a trial cut. Just make sure you have plenty of time between your trial cut and your actual cut for comp. In terms of contingencies, if you wake up too heavy, so if you wake up above weight, firstly, there is no need to panic. Like, there are always things you can do. I would always just make sure you give yourself time to mitigate this. So don't wake up just with enough time to quickly shower and leave your hotel room. Yes, sleep is important the night before comp, but also making weight is important too. So give yourself enough time to check your weight. Just wake up nice and early, check your weight. If you wake up an hour earlier than you needed to and you wake up at weight, just go back to sleep for an hour, lay down for an hour, you know? But you're better off waking up earlier so you don't have to stress over it and you have plenty of time to correct if needed. So the most common methods on the day of comp to get that last bit of weight off are spitting and sweating. So if you're only a little bit over, so first thing, if you wake up and you're 100 grams over and you've got at least 2 hours until weigh-in, you probably just don't need to do anything. Just be nil by mouth and you'll be fine. Your body's going to continue to lose a little bit of weight just through this time anyway. If you wake up and you're, let's say, 3, 4, maybe 500 grams over, you can most likely get that off just through spitting and just generally moving, getting ready. You'll probably be sweating a little bit naturally anyway. So when I say spitting, someone actually asked on my comp recap what I meant by this. So spitting is literally what it says on the tin. So you are just spitting up into a cup. So I personally always have paper cups with my comp kit. And like, I have them in the back of my car at all times, just because if I ever go to a meet and someone's over, or if I'm over, paper cup, just spit up. And what I would also say is if you are going to have to spit the water up and to get some more weight off, always have sour sweets or chewing gum to hand, because it helps produce more saliva if they're in your mouth, and then you can spit obviously with those, and it's just a little bit more effective and it speeds up the process a little bit. It's not the most fun thing, but I'll be honest, I would pick spitting over a hot bath or a sauna any day, which leads me on to the next option. So if I personally am more than like 400 or 500 grams over, I will have a hot bath or I will sauna, depending on what's available to me. Generally, it's always just hot bathing. I say always, I've only had to do this a couple of times personally, but it will be a hot bath. And then what I am also looking into is getting a sauna pod that I can take with me to hotels, because I think I personally would rather sauna than I would bath. But anyway, that's not relevant. This isn't about me. If you wake up and you are, let's say, more than 500 grams over, just have a hot bath. Run a nice hot bath and essentially just sit in it, and it will make you sweat, and then you will obviously sweat off more weight. Same thing with a sauna. If you are over and your hotel has a sauna that's open, or there's a leisure centre nearby that has a sauna that you can use and you don't have access to a hot bath and you would prefer to sauna, go find the nearest sauna and just use that, and essentially you will just sweat off excess fluid and you will obviously get your weight down just as a temporary measure. So basically, it's on the day of comp, getting as much water out of your system as possible, out of your body as possible, whether that's through sweating or spitting. It doesn't sound like the most fun thing. It's certainly not the most fun thing, but it does work. And a lot of people would rather sit a bit heavier and just do that on comp day, which, to be honest, is kind of what I'm leaning towards now, at least for more competitive comps, to allow my body weight to sit a little bit heavier. So if you wake up on comp day and you are over, there is no need to panic. You can get that weight off. Like myself as an example, at British last year, I woke up a kilo over, which is the heaviest I've ever been on the morning of comp, and I just hot bathed and spat until that came off, and I weighed in at 84 on the dot. And I could have hot bathed for long without feeling too rough. So basically, there's always things you can do to make weight. There is no reason to panic. Just the main thing is making sure you wake up early enough to do these things should you need to. So yeah, I think that makes it less necessary to do a trial cut, because you have these things in place. And then from there, no matter what you do, make sure you have what you need for a good recomp. So on competition day, as soon as you've weighed in, it is not over in terms of nutrition. It's just getting started. Once you've weighed in, the most important thing is fueling your competition day. So you want to weigh in, and if you've had to dehydrate yourself, whether that's through hot bathing, water cutting, spitting, anything, electrolytes, which, to be honest, most people I think just have electrolytes after you've weighed in anyway. Electrolytes, plenty of carbs, plenty of fluid. Don't overfill yourself, but first things first is prioritize hydration and then get some good carbs in your system. And what I always do is I mix in my electrolytes and my dextrin with my first drink as I've weighed in, and that gets some carbs in my system and some electrolytes in my system all at the same time, without my stomach feeling too full, without me feeling uncomfortably full. I let that settle, and then I will nibble at something just like a carby snack, and then I will have another drink as well. So just make sure your recomp is planned to a T. Make sure you've got extra electrolytes available, extra just water available, and different things like that, just so that you can make sure you've got what you need with you on competition day. That is all the questions I had for now. There are a few more that I've got, but they kind of link in, so I think I've covered most of the things that I was asked. If you guys have any If you guys have any nutrition related questions, leave them down below. They don't have to be powerlifting specific. They can be literally anything, and I will be sure to do another video in the future on them. I want to make more nutrition style content, because I do think it's something that I don't put out too much. So yeah, let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you if you've made it to the end.